you see so many more male attorneys marketing and branding themselves. And I think it's primarily because we don't see, they say you can only become what you can see, right? We don't see it.
Welcome to a very special episode of the Game Changing Attorney podcast, recorded live at the Game Changer Summit. I'm taking over today's episode featuring Director of Operations at Flood Law Firm, Rachel Flood, owner and lead attorney at Davana Law Firm, Mariam Kuregyan, Senior Partner at Disability Attorneys of Michigan, Samantha Ball, and Adjunct Professor and Trial Attorney at Alexander Shunnarah Personal Injury Law, Sara Williams.
So I think it's important to have women leaders in place so that more women feel comfortable stepping up and stepping to the table.
I'm Jessica Mogill, Head of Coaching Strategy at CRISP, the nation's #1 law firm growth company. Alongside Michael Mogill, we've built this business through practice, not theory. CRISP started with just $500 to Michael's name and has grown to over 8 figures in revenue over the last few years, earning a spot on the Inc. 500 list of the fastest growing private companies in America. Our approach has been to take everything we've learned about generating massive growth within our own organization and help the country's most ambitious and committed law firm owners do the same for theirs. In each episode of this podcast, we sit down with innovative market leaders from the legal industry and beyond to learn from those who thrive in the face of adversity, challenge the status quo, and define what it means to be a true game changer. This lineup of incredible leaders join me on stage live at the Game Changer Summit to discuss how to positively and effectively influence a diverse team, why sacrifices are necessary to achieve success, and how to guarantee your input is heard.
Stop waiting to be invited. So many times I'm in these rooms, these wonderful masterminds with just amazing attorneys with so much to teach us, and there's not enough women in the room. And while there's all these other wonderful attorneys to learn from, there are a lot of other spaces for women to join in. Don't wait for someone to invite you, invite yourself.
That's what's coming up on the Game Changing Attorney podcast. This panel is not going to be a panel about work-life balance because I'm pretty sure no one up here embraces work-life balance. We embrace work-life integration and we embrace leadership and being the women that are driving that forward as an entrepreneur, as a female business owner. And to kick that off, I really want to start with what is the definition of leadership? So Rachel, what would you say is your definition of leadership?
I think that in my firm, just being able to show people that they can kind of make their own path and not have to follow what they think a leader is, and just kind of follow their passion and their drive to succeed.
Awesome. And Sam, what would you say is your leadership style and how do you lead others?
I think I'm all about connection and opportunity. So I'm really big on bringing the team together. It doesn't have to be all about me. I want others to succeed and grow and just bring it to that higher level as a team.
Right. Awesome. And Mariam, what would you say has been the biggest factor in your success and what has actually prepared you for leadership?
That's two questions.
You get two.
The ability to kind of see yourself in other shoe and kind of relate to your clients and your team. And we females tend to be more nurturing. So the key to success is to be nurturing, whether it's a challenge or an injured client. I think our strength comes in nurturing.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And Sara, what are some common misconceptions that you see that people have about female attorneys and business owners? So I know you're actively involved in a college and teaching and everything. So what are some of the common misconceptions that you see?
I think the biggest struggle that we have as women is this tendency to downplay our strengths, right? Because we're so worried about, if I'm a very direct person, are people gonna think I'm a bitch? And just not worrying about what people think and what people perceive you as, and just being the leader that you need to be.
Yes. And I'm actually going to go further on that because Sara recently had a post about that, being bossy versus being bitchy. And can you elaborate on what your take is on that?
Yeah, so I think a common experience that women in this room probably have is you send an email and someone's like, the tone of your email. And it's like, dude, I told you to like turn your numbers in. By the end of the month, you know, my email did not have a tone, but at the end of the day, like, I'm not going to change my directness because you are not accustomed to strong women. I think as strong women, we just have to make the world accustomed to us.
Yes. Love that. Love that. And Sam, why would you say that women leaders matter? Why are they needed in the legal industries particularly?
Well, it's a lot about balance, right? So we have clients that come from all different walks of life, and not all of our clients are male, right?
Right.
So you need female leaders to help really build that balance, right? We're a part of the story, and I get tired of hearing other females apologize for being great at what they do. Don't apologize for being good at your job. You know, just rise to the occasion, and like Sara said, let the world around you meet you.
Yeah, let them level up to you. And Mariam, what would you say are some of the biggest challenges you have faced as a female leader and entrepreneur?
My biggest challenge, I don't know if anybody can relate, but my biggest challenge is myself, right? The fear in me of, can I do it? Am I good enough? Am I capable enough? And I think it takes a lot of people who care for you to kind of bring out your best and let you see for what you are. But my biggest challenge is that I have internal fears. And by being on this panel or seeing other women do it, that is why it's so important, because it allows you to kind of disengage the fear and come out stronger.
Absolutely. Yes, yes. And Rachel, I'm going to ask you this one because I know you also work with your husband. So it is not for everyone, I will say that. But I do feel that most women often feel like they have to compromise in the workplace between life, between work, between children, spouse, whatever that might be. And so how would you say that you've maintained your authenticity through that balance?
I think it's just a matter of knowing that it's not so much balance, but that you're just going to have to kind of focus your time on different things depending on what's going on, and learning to ask for help and support in the areas that you need it. So if you're very involved in something going on at work, you know, maybe you need more help at home or with your kids, and vice versa. And I think, you know, it's not always easy to ask for help, but once you kind of get to that point, it definitely makes it easier.
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. And then I'm going to open this one kind of up to everyone, but we'll start with Sam. Have you ever experienced resistance in leading men?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's sometimes some difficulty, more so from an older regime of thinking. Mm-hmm. I have worked with men that I've been called a skirt before. I've had men that have a hard time calling me Samantha and prefer to call me Sam. And when I've done a good job, they called me a swell chap.
Oh.
The thing about it for me is that I never looked at that as a fight or a battle. It was more of an opportunity. I had an opportunity to learn from these individuals that weren't necessarily comfortable working with me, but because I went into it looking at it as that opportunity, I gained a tremendous amount of knowledge and experience that now I work with a lot of male attorneys and have over the years that I think it really has evolved, and I don't meet the same type of resistance. Mm-hmm. And I think also because I'm more of an inclusive team type leader, that helps a lot with that. I think it's an interesting dynamic when we talk about opportunities, and when I've had attorneys that were from that older regime that I've learned from, what I am finding is as we bring in new and younger attorneys, especially men that are growing their own families, there's so many ways that they can relate to us that they can't relate to their male leaders in the same way. So being a positive mirror, not just for other female leaders, but for those young men that are coming up in the business and want to have all of those things with their family. They're struggling with the same issues we are.
Yeah, no, that's such a good point. Anyone else? Has anyone else had any resistance leading men?
You know, I managed a firm that had over 100 lawyers and 80 of them were men. I think, though, the important thing for me was my core group of lawyers who supported me. I'm a guy's girl. I grew up with 2 older brothers. Like, I'll fight a dude, you know? So for me, the resistance like I recognized it, but I did not ever let it limit me. And I think that's an important thing for us to talk about, because I feel like what happens is you come to conferences like this, which are tremendous in terms of your growth as a professional, and then you may end up with a bad experience with a handful of guys, and then you're like, okay, I'm not gonna do those conferences again. And I think it's really important as women to support each other. Like, you know, these women who've been involved in CRISP have been so instrumental in pushing me to step outside of my comfort zone or push past, you know, bad experiences to continue to do the work. Because at the end of the day, the guys are going to be here, right? If you don't show up, nobody cares, right? So you still have to show up irrespective of what the resistance is.
No, I think that's such a good point, and having each other push one another. And so, Rachel, would you say there are any big female influences that you've had in your life that have helped you with this?
Yeah, I actually think a lot of the people that I work with have helped sort of push me outside of my comfort zone. In our firm, we have almost 50 people. It's 75% women. And most of those women all have children under 10. So I think we have a firm that's very supportive of working mothers and helping each other kind of, you know, I can't tell you how many times there's those conversations where somebody says, I'm failing as a mom, or I'm failing at work because they feel like they can't get everything done. And that's, you know, knowing that there's other people that kind of have those moments and feel that way, and you can sort of support each other and say, no, you're not failing, you're doing great. And that's just kind of been an inspiration to me. It's just seeing how other people are balancing it, and we can all kind of support each other.
Yeah, we actually have a joke with some of the moms in the office. Anytime any of us are kind of like faltering, or like last week, I hardly saw my children prepping for this. And then anyone will just be like, you're a good mom. Just don't forget, you're a good mom. So now, Mariam, you have an interesting perspective because your team is pretty much all female. So what is that like?
Well, it was all female until this year of March, but I think having all females, we root for each other, we kind of cheer each other up, and I love that factor within my firm. But now we have our first male attorney, and I thought maybe there's going to be some difficulty, but he's embraced us, and he's just an intricate part of the team. I don't see a difference. I think the strength is to just kind of plow through and not reserve yourself. I think that's the key.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. And then kind of moving into that work versus home, and I don't think it has to be a choice.
It's coming.
So Sara, I know you have a lot of thoughts on this, but I will say, what personal choices have you made that have allowed you to be a leader and also, you know, a great influence to your daughter as well?
So the choice for me was to like get out of the competition. Like, I've got a skill set, and my skill set is trying cases. My skill set is not baking cookies and cleaning the house. Like, that's not my skill set. And so before my husband and I entered into a relationship, I was real clear, like, hey, these are my expectations, right? Yeah. I plan on always working. I plan on being the primary breadwinner. So you're either on the bus or you're not on the bus. You know, but for us, I think the thing has been, especially living in the South, to not be concerned about the cookie cutter family structure and to create a family structure that is right for us. And it's difficult because sometimes, you know, you'll see things and your kids will say things, but I will tell you, recently, my little girl's third grade teacher called me and she said, you know, one of the things that she does so well is when she has to stand up in class, she has this great presence and she stands up straight and all the kids want to listen to her, and I don't know what you're doing. And so I thought to myself, I'm so glad that I took her to trial team practice and didn't have a regular bedtime. You know, the things that I felt guilty about not doing have actually worked to her benefit. Seeing me do what I do is the biggest benefit for her.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you ask anyone in the team, Mila's favorite place is the office. So anytime she's in her play car, where are you going, Mila? To Mila's office. Not mommy or daddy's office, Mila's office. But it's setting that example from the beginning. And Mariam, would you say, have you had to make any trade-offs for, you know, being able to be an entrepreneur as well as a mother?
Well, before I get to that question, I kind of play off on what Sara said. I know we want to be strong and come across as if we have no fears, but I come from a place of tradition, strong tradition. I'm Armenian, and I hold my place so true, being a mom, being the nurturer. And when I want to put my kids to bed, that comes first to me. And I usually draw a line. And even being so traditional, I think it's also possible to be strong and to be a good attorney and to have your own practice. So going into your question, I think being an entrepreneur was hard, but I needed the support of my family and my friends, and they all came through and kind of gave me that push, which I think you can't have if you don't have a good network of people helping you.
Oh yeah, it takes a full village, but I will also echo that. Ever since Mila was born, that was a non-negotiable for me. The entire office knew that. I mean, I used to be there till 9, 10 o'clock every night, and bath time every night was non-negotiable. And I said, you can reach me after that. I will do everything, but I will be there every single night to put her to sleep. And so I don't think you do have to compromise.
That's right.
And that. And so, yeah. And then Sam, actually on that note, women are often placed as the homemaker, which Sara, you and me, we will never bake cookies together because that's also me.
Not my ministry.
Actually, that's what, for early on, I said, Michael, you can have me in the business or you can have me at home. It will be more advantageous in the business. So, but Sam, you know, in this dynamic and having to be home a lot more with just the realities of the world now, has it been more of a positive impact or a negative impact?
So I think it was a positive impact for my girls. I have 2 daughters, 17 and 12. And the interesting thing is that I was never really home. So when the world shut down, I was the one at the office taking care of everything at the office. Now, I fortunately live really close to the office, so that helps. But I don't view it as a trade-off or even a compromise. Listen, everybody chooses what's going to work best for their family dynamic. And I, like you and Sara, I'm not at home baking cookies. I have maybe 1 or 2 things that are my specialty, and I get to make those when I'm on vacation. I just don't view it as a trade-off or a compromise. It's just becoming what we are as a family, just different from those traditional norms. Mm-hmm. But why do we have to follow all of the traditional norms, right? You can make those adjustments. So in a lot of ways, it was even better for my daughters to be home with their father more.
Right.
I think they got a huge benefit from that.
Yeah, absolutely. And Rachel, how have you balanced being that, again, kind of going back to being in the business also with your husband and then being a working mom, and what does your integration look like?
It's chaotic at times.
Yes.
My kids are young, 4, 6, and 7, and we started the firm 9 years ago. So I was, we had very young children through this whole process. I think just really having like that strong passion and belief in what you're doing helps, because our kids know that we care so much about our clients and what we're building at our firm and our team, that I think they can see even from a young age how, how we value our work. So it's not, a lot of times you hear people talk about their kids or why they, work and what they're working for. But I feel like really it's also beyond that like my work is the why I'm willing to leave my kids, because I believe in what I'm doing and I care about our clients and building our firm and I care about our team. So it's something that I'm willing to sacrifice some of my time with my kids. And even though it's hard at times, I couldn't do that for something that I didn't care about so much. And so I think, our kids can see that it's something that it's worthwhile what we're doing.
Absolutely. I always say Chris was my first child. So, and Mariam, I want to go back to kind of like your traditional upbringing and expectation there. Has there been a female influence in your life that has kind of led you to being able to say, I can be strong in both places?
Actually, I wish the answer was yes. I want to say no, and that's why I'm so big about motivating the younger generation, being a positive kind of influence for them, opening up my door to every single female or even male, anybody that wants to kind of see how to do it. I always welcome that, because if I had it, I'd be here quicker. And I know this is not a race, but for certain things lining up for me, I wouldn't be here, period. So I think it's so important to kind of find that person who motivates you and watch them and grow with them. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm with you. Over half of our team is female, so I get that. And Sara, what would you say are the benefits of having women in leadership?
I think the first benefit is what Mariam was talking about, is being visible, because I think like you see so many more male attorneys marketing and branding themselves, and I think it's primarily because we don't see, they say you can only become what you can see, right? We don't see it, right? So when you step out there, it feels like you're stepping out there on a limb and doing something different, because I think the way women market and brand themselves is different and it's unique, right? And so I think oftentimes women are hesitant to do things like that because they think, well, I can't be Alex, right? I'm not gonna do those things, but you don't have to. And so I think it's important to have women leaders in place so that more women feel comfortable stepping up and stepping to the table.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sam, what would you say in terms of, how do choices for men and women differ when they are pursuing leadership? So do you feel that they have to go over different struggles, or what does that look like to you?
Yeah, I just don't think of it as different.
Yeah.
I've never approached it thinking, I'm going into a more male-dominated field. I never focused on that. I just knew who I was, what I wanted to do, and what that end game looked like for me, and didn't look at everything else that was going on around me.
Yeah.
Yep.
Love that. Yes. And Rachel, because I know we talked about earlier leading, and has that been different leading men, but have you been treated differently and be open with colleagues or anything for being a female?
I'm like you, where I think it's kind of hard because I work with my husband, so there's sort of like that cliche, like, oh, she's just here because she's married, who she married. So I think sometimes people initially think that about me, but then once they see that I'm probably getting there before them and leaving after them, and now I kind of take it on as like a challenge that, I will, if somebody thinks a certain way about me, they're going to quickly realize that that's not who I am. So I think that I found that, once, when you're willing to kind of put in the hard work and work alongside people, they're usually willing to allow you to lead them.
Right.
So that's been my experience, but it is kind of a sticky situation when you're working with your husband.
Oh, yes, that's a whole other panel. So, Sara, how would you say that, this generation, how can we be a better influence to the next generation? Like, how can we encourage and inspire them?
I think it's important for us to just continue doing what we're doing and continue to be visible, but to also, I think, educate on, not just our female counterparts, but our male counterparts as well, on things that make women less likely to participate. Don't ask us who's watching our children when we come to things like these, right? Because what happens is it makes us feel like you don't think I should be in this space. And while I don't care what you think, right, I'm less likely to want to come to this space. So I think it's important for us to have very upfront and honest conversations from, obviously, y'all know me, a place of love and graciousness, but very direct about the things that we've experienced. And so that, because we're in a position where we can have those honest conversations, right? Nobody's gonna take a job from us. We're not worried about where our next case is coming from, right? If I offend some dude in this audience, Alex is still gonna feed me cake. I'm good, right? And so we can say the things that some of our younger counterparts cannot, so that they don't necessarily have to experience some of the things that we experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mariam, since you've kind of paved this way on your own and you haven't had that person, what are you most excited about for the next generation of women leaders?
I'm super excited. It's tough to follow Sara, Zach, because she's just so eloquent and she has right words, but Sara. I think for the next generation, we don't have to try too hard. I think they learn by watching. It's, I have 2 daughters and a son, but my girls watch and they kind of mimic that. So I could say one thing, but if I do something else, then they will mimic what it is that I do. So for the next generation, as long as we're present, as long as we have panels such as this one, as long as we're included within this beautiful profession, which allows me to help people, I think we're on the right track.
Yeah, having 2 daughters yourself, what example are you hoping to set for them?
I'm just gonna push through, break every kind of cultural or gender barrier that's out there, and not even question it. I'm moving forward, and I'm excited to see what's in the future for me.
Absolutely. Actually, everyone up here has daughters. So what's the example we're setting for them? So Sam.
So I have, like I said, a 17-year-old and a 12-year-old, and to see that come back at you, right? The lessons they learn as they see your strength and your arguments. I tell you, my 17-year-old has the best arguments as they come back to me, but I'm so proud because it shows that she's thinking through things, she's speaking up for herself, and she's not afraid to fight for herself and for what she believes is important. And to know that my daughter seeing that in me is so important, and I'm just so proud of that.
I love that. And Rachel, what example are you hoping to set for your children and your daughter?
Yeah, I have 3 strong-willed children,
Yes.
but yes, a very strong-willed 6-year-old daughter. But hopefully I'm just setting an example that for all my kids, just to, follow what they're passionate about and find something that they care about for their work. So that's the hope, and that I think, there's so many strong women in the legal field that are setting a great example. And now I hope it's kind of getting to the point that when my daughter or son, they're entering the workforce, that it's more just about picking the best candidate than being concerned about whether the person is, a woman or a man, or whether they have children and that's going to impact their ability to work, but just picking the best person.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what Michael says all the time. He's like, I don't care if they're purple or orange or what they are. I want the best person. And I will actually say all of Crisp leadership team, our exec team, is all female without Michael, of course. So, and Sara, what example or message are you trying to send for your daughter as well?
I really want her to go through life as herself and not being as concerned about what people think about what she's doing. Because I feel like I learned that lesson so much later in life. Like I feel like as girls, we're socialized to, if you're too much, like most of us on this panel were probably told as little girls we were too much. And so then you go through grade school and you suppress that, and then all of a sudden you're in a position where you need that again. I don't want her to ever lose that spirit. Right. So my goal, and it's hard parenting a child like you. But my goal is for her to never lose that spirit so that she doesn't have to, read all of Brene Brown's books to figure it out and try to get it back.
Yes. All right, and then our closing question for each of you, and we'll start with Rachel here. What advice do you want to give to the next generation of women leaders?
Again, I think going back to what I said, hopefully everybody, the next generation can really just kind of focus on being able to be themselves and pursue their passion, and and know that they can, quote unquote, have it all, so that there doesn't have to be a choice between being a mother or, being an attorney or having a career or your own business, that people will know that, there's a way to have everything that you want in life.
Awesome. Yes, and Sam?
Don't apologize for being badass at what you do.
Yes.
And I think the second thing is to stop waiting to be invited. So many times I'm in these rooms, these wonderful masterminds with just amazing attorneys with so much to teach us, and there's not enough women in the room. And while there's all these other wonderful attorneys to learn from, there are a lot of other spaces for women to join in. Don't wait for someone to invite you, invite yourself.
Love that. Yes. All right, Mariam.
Mine's singular, really just identify the fears that you have within you and just do away with them. As long as you're able to identify the fear, then you're able to overcome it and just go straight ahead.
Awesome. And Sara?
It's okay to be selfish. I think we're all raised to think that's the worst thing to be, but it's okay to be selfish and put yourself first and say, like, I'm going to step out there and brand myself and market myself and take that time to myself, because you are as important as the family you support and the business that you're supporting.
I want to give a huge thank you to all 4 members of our Women Legal Leaders panel for sharing their valuable insights with us at the Game Changers Summit. You've been listening to the Game Changing Attorney Podcast with me, Jessica Mogill. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd really appreciate it if you could share it with one ambitious law firm owner you think would benefit. And you know what? Maybe more than one. For more information on the panel, see the show notes for this episode in your podcast app or visit gamechangingattorney.com. And join us next time when Michael will be speaking with serial entrepreneur, renowned business strategist, and marketing expert, Roland Frazier.
I think the once-in-a-lifetime deal comes along 3 or 4 times a year. And so the deals that you don't do are much more important than the deals you do, because if you get bogged down with the so-so deals, then the once-in-a-lifetime ones might pass you by, or you might not have the resources to be able to do them at the time that they show themselves.
That's next time on the Game Changing Attorney podcast.